modern athletes are specialists, honed for one role, shaped by years of elite coaching, and often blessed by the genetic lottery. Their quarterbacks groomed in private camps from age 10, or tight ends raised by Division I athletes. These stories dominate, a stark contrast to the grinded-out paths of yesteryear. But James Casey was an outlier. No athletic lineage, no polished quarterback camps. His story wasn't built in pristine gyms of suburbia, but in the dusty fields and schoolyards of Azle, Texas. What he lacked in privilege, he made up for in sheer versatility. He wasn't just a player, he was a one-man solution. A Swiss Army knife on the gridiron, prepared for any challenge. If versatility had a face, it would look like James Casey lining up across 7 positions in one game. See, for James, it all began in Azle, a small town outside of Fort Worth, where, like many small towns in Texas, Friday night football was more than a pastime. It was a way of life.
Texas forever, Street.
Texas forever.
Texas forever.
In this close-knit community, James grew up in a trailer with his mother and sister. His mom, a hardworking single parent, did everything to provide for her kids, instilling in James a fierce sense of responsibility.
Do whatever I could to be successful, and I was always good in school.
James's world turned upside down during his sophomore year of high school, when a fire ripped through his family's trailer, destroying everything they owned.
Like cleaning houses, and so she came home and she slept during the day, but I was at school in biology class, and I think it was just a student came in with a little sheet, says you need to go to the office. And as I go to the office, like I have a half brother, and he was standing there, and he was just told me, like right when I got there, said the trailer burned down and your mom was inside. So like immediately, like whole life changed.
Alone and barely 16, James faced the chasm of uncertainty, but the town of Azle rallied. It wasn't the age of GoFundMe. It was an era of casseroles and neighborly generosity.
A lot of my community helped me. Like I grew up with hardly any money. So, after my mother passed away, like a bunch of people like donated clothes and gave me like some money, like it kind of guess would be like a GoFundMe now situation. We didn't have that back then.
People donated clothes, money, and shelter. For a time, James bounced between homes, his older sisters, his future wife's family, and even the local high school trainers. This makeshift support system became his extended family. One neighbor went as far as to buy James a truck, a gesture that really symbolized the depth of the Azle community. The town's rallying wasn't just about providing for his immediate needs. It was a collective investment in his future. James didn't let the chaos break him. Instead, he internalized a powerful lesson.
Bad things happen, but you can control the controllables. Like what can you control? Like your attitude, your effort, and how do you want to live? What kind of person do you want to be?
With his mother's memory as a compass and the community's support as his wind, James poured himself into sports, where he found not just distraction, but purpose. James became Azle High School's quarterback on the gridiron and a dominant pitcher on the baseball diamond. His right arm was a cannon, and scouts took notice. On the football field, he led a triple option run offense, which didn't allow him to showcase his passing abilities extensively. As a result, he didn't get many looks as a quarterback from college recruiters. But that didn't deter him. He excelled in the triple option system. His senior year brought another setback. 2 right knee surgeries sidelined him for most of the football season, further cooling the attention he was getting from college recruiters. Ever practical, James leaned into the opportunity that could provide the most immediate stability for his family: baseball. The Chicago White Sox selected him in the 7th round of the 2003 MLB draft. On the mound, James Casey was a force of nature. His fastball was so dominant that Baseball America called it the best among the White Sox's 2003 draft class. Scouts from across the country had taken note of the cannon attached to his right arm, envisioning a bright future for the young pitcher. Baseball, for James, wasn't just a passion, it was a ticket to stability. But life in the minors wasn't glamorous. At 19, James traded the familiarity of Azle for rookie league baseball in Bristol, Virginia. He lived out of dingy motels, endured 10-hour bus rides on an $850 monthly paycheck, all the while juggling a wife and a son. The grind of the minors was relentless, and the isolation weighed on him. Even the mechanics that coaches tried to drill into him only seemed to hinder his game. His frustration mounted as his performance faltered. The harder he worked, the less progress he seemed to make. He started questioning his love for the game. 3 years into the minors and little to show for it, James made the difficult decision to walk away from baseball. After, in his words, being fired.
Leaving baseball, it was, I'm going to have no regrets whatsoever in anything else I do. Whatever I do, once I decide this is what I'm doing and I have a worthwhile goal of this thing, like nobody's going to outwork me because of what happened in baseball.
It wasn't quitting, it was pivoting. For James, failure wasn't the end. It was an invitation to reinvent himself. At 23 years old, James stepped onto Rice University's campus, not just as a freshman football player, but as a man on a mission. Most first-year students were navigating dorm life and their first taste of independence. James, meanwhile, was married to his high school sweetheart, had a child to support, and carried the weight of a failed baseball career. He approached this new chapter with a sense of urgency, unlike any of his peers.
Nobody can outwork me, I promise you. And you can ask anybody that I played with at Rice, any of the coaches, like there's nobody that did, like in the entire country. I mean, I was a almost borderline like crazy person in a good way though. I mean, I was focused and nobody's gonna outwork me.
The Rice coaching staff saw potential in James's size and athleticism, slotting him as a defensive end. But James wasn't content to be another cog in the machine. By the end of spring, he convinced the coaches to let him try offense. Starting with wildcat quarterback packages, he leveraged the arm that had once thrown 90-mile-per-hour fastballs, but that was just the beginning. Over the next 2 seasons, James became a positionless wonder.
I did not want to lose, and like I said, I was literally gonna have no regrets and nobody's gonna outwork me, and I was not afraid to like get out of my comfort zone and like, go do things that maybe weren't comfortable to me, but if it was gonna help us win, I thought I could be good at it or better than who the guy that was doing it at the time. I just did it. They can tell you no. Just like go do something, and then they'll tell you no, or they'll say, okay, you're pretty good at that.
Early in his Rice career, he noticed the team's punt returner struggling in games. Quietly, during practices, James began fielding punts, just hopping in line and fielding punts. He did it so often and so well that the coaches eventually gave him a shot at the position. The same thing happened with snapping. James added long snapper to his repertoire. In practices, he would seize opportunities without waiting for permission.
And I was like a freshman, I wasn't on punt return. So I'm just observing, or I wasn't a starter, just observing, and we had a guy that wasn't catching punts very well. In the games, he would like muff them. And we sucked early on my freshman year. And I was just watching it, I'm just, as a 23-year-old college player, and I'm seeing this guy not catch the punt, and I'm defensive end quarterback. Now I'm quarterback, and I'm just like, screw this. I'm not letting us not catching punts beat us. So I just go out there and start standing in line and start just catching punts, even though I was playing quarterback at the time. Just kind of like getting in there and just showing them I could catch it. And the coaches saw me catching it, and eventually they just put me in at punt return. It's not like they asked me to do it. I just went out there and did it.
See, when he was with the White Sox, one of the things James said he really regrets not doing was speaking up for himself and letting coaches know when he thought something was incorrect or when he thought something could be better. Against Southern Miss, as a freshman on a Wednesday night, James had his breakout moment. Rice was struggling with injuries on the defensive line. The coaching staff turned to James with a last-minute question the night before the game.
Like leading up to Southern Miss, I played defensive end all spring, and then I didn't get to quarterback until fall camp. And then we're like in game 5 or 6. So I haven't done defensive end this entire time. Like the day before the game, Coach Bailiff was like, hey, do you remember that defensive end? The defense coordinator was asking me. And I was like, yeah, I remember everything.
What followed was the stuff of legends. James lined up as a wildcat quarterback, scoring a rushing touchdown and throwing an interception. On defense, he recorded a sack and a tackle for a loss and just 5 total snaps played. By the time the game ended, James had filled multiple roles, playing 7 positions. and contributing in all three phases of the football game: offense, defense, and special teams.
7 different positions in one game, playing everything from defensive end to safety to quarterback to wide receiver.
And then I go into the cafeteria at Rice, and like everybody stands up, like gives me like a standing ovation as I walk in, and I'm like just flabbergasted. I didn't recognize how crazy that was. Like, you're not supposed to be able to play quarterback and score a touchdown and sack the quarterback in a college football game, Division I college football game. So everybody was like noticing me, and like for the first time. And then after that, I kind of took off and started getting a lot of opportunity.
This wasn't just a one-game phenomenon. Week after week, James Casey became the player Rice could count on to fill any gap, execute any play, and deliver in the clutch. Against all odds, he became the centerpiece of Rice's offense, even as he continued to contribute on special teams and defense. His sophomore season at Rice was nothing short of legendary. 111 receptions, 1,329 yards, and 13 touchdowns, a single season record. He ranked second nationally in catches and rushed for 241 yards and 6 touchdowns. He also threw for 2 more touchdowns. When the starting kick returner and future NFL safety Andrew Sendejo went down with an injury, James stepped in and delivered the longest punt return by a Rice player in 3 seasons. Casey's fingerprints were everywhere. 18 touchdowns in a single season, 55% of his touches converting for first downs, and relentless contributions all over the field. In all 3 phases. At Rice, James not only excelled on the field, but also in the classroom. He graduated as a sophomore in just 6 semesters with a 3.9 GPA, earning a triple major in economics, sports management, and managerial studies, along with a minor in business. Since Rice didn't offer a business major, he pursued it as a minor instead. His ability to juggle so many responsibilities was nothing short of remarkable. After his record-setting tenure at Rice, Casey set his sights on the NFL, a dream within reach, but far from guaranteed. The NFL scouting combine in Indianapolis would be his proving ground, a stage where his athletic prowess meets intense scrutiny. At 6'3" and 240 pounds, James didn't fit the traditional mold of a tight end. He had the bulk, but his height fell just shy of the NFL's ideal, and his shorter than average arms were another mark against him. He more than made up for what he lacked in physical prototypicality with versatility. The Houston Texans saw potential in Casey's multifaceted skill set, selecting him in the 5th round of the 2009 NFL Draft.
With the 152nd pick, Houston has selected James Casey, tight end from Rice.
For Casey, it was a moment of validation, a testament to his perseverance and adaptability. Transitioning to the professional level, he faced the challenges of a typical NFL rookie, mastering a complex playbook, adjusting to the speed of the game, and finding his niche on the team. Versatility, once again, became his greatest asset. After a promising rookie season with the Texans, Casey began to flourish in his dual role as a tight end and fullback. His versatility made him invaluable in Gary Kubiak's offense.
He's got more degrees than you, Tirico. He's a real smart guy. They like his versatility. You know, Casey's that added dimension. You know, he can be a full, but he can give you that motion. He can be an H-back. He can give you a lot of different looks on the offensive side.
His presence on the field added flexibility to the Texans' scheme and keeping defenses guessing. The Texans were able to keep certain personnel packages out there with James because he could line up in multiple spots, at fullback, at slot, and at tight end if necessary. In 2013, Casey's hard work paid off when he signed a 3-year, $12 million deal with the Philadelphia Eagles in Chip Kelly's fast-paced offense. Casey brought a veteran leadership and once again, the ability to fit anywhere. He was expected to be a critical piece of Kelly's innovative offense. However, the reality of a crowded tight end room and limited snaps tempered those expectations. As always, Casey found ways to make himself indispensable, even if it meant preparing for a role no one saw coming. That same year, he did something no one else did. He blocked a Steve Weatherford punt.
I don't know what the rankings are, but I would imagine not right up there at the top, and it's really special because you play a long time, and it's hard to it's hard to get that. A lot of things have to happen. You have to have a lot of really good guys on your team, great coaching, and this year kind of all came together for us. I'm extremely proud to be one of the four core special teams guys to play a lot of snaps. I think I played over 430-something snaps on special teams this year. And
if both Eagles quarterbacks got hurt on game day, plan B was me, Casey said, smiling at the absurdity of it all. I'd say if there's anybody I'd compare my style to, it would be like Tim Tebow. I just run the ball a lot, get some first downs. I can throw, obviously, but it wouldn't be a full game plan. It would be easy stuff, because I don't know all my reads. Hopefully I could just catch a snap and hand it off. His stint as the Texans' emergency quarterback under Gary Kubiak had also caught Kelly's attention. That foresight came in handy during a brutal Eagles season where the quarterback room looked more like a triage unit. Michael Vick pulled a hamstring, Nick Foles got a concussion, and rookie Matt Barkley was thrown into the fire and was no stranger to injuries himself. It never happened, but at that time, it seemed like only a matter of time before Casey could be tapped to lead the offense. After 2 years in Philadelphia, Casey joined the Denver Broncos in 2015, a team poised for greatness with Peyton Manning under center. As always, Casey approached the season with the same commitment to preparation and attention to detail that had defined his career. But this time, circumstances beyond his control altered the script. During his time with the Broncos, Casey marveled at Manning's meticulous approach to the game, Manning's player-only meetings, relentless film study, and the ability to outthink opponents left a lasting impression. Casey absorbed it all, knowing that such insights would one day serve him in his post-playing career.
Being with Peyton Manning, it was fascinating just to see how he operates, and he would have his own meetings with the players and the skill position guys before our regular meetings, and he would go through like 2-minute offense stuff where we're signaling and we're calling plays, but he would only allow the people that were going to be in the game in those meetings, like even the practice squad guys, and even coaches wouldn't be in that meeting because he really wanted to keep everything like really secret. And then if we ever played a team, like within your division, you're playing them the second time, he would always be real detailed on watching the TV copy himself and like hearing what he's saying and seeing what he looks like, and to try to do those same things and run a different play. Just the amount of like attention and detail that he had was fascinating.
But in week 5, the Broncos released Casey to make room on their roster. It was a crushing moment, not just because his time with the team ended, but because he knew the potential of what they could achieve. That potential was realized as the Broncos went on to win Super Bowl 50. Watching from the outside, Casey was proud of his former teammates, but also his release meant he narrowly missed the pinnacle of the sport, a Super Bowl ring as a player. Casey's NFL career ended after the 2015 season. Spanning 7 seasons, 3 teams, and countless lessons learned, he only missed 4 games his entire NFL career. There were 8 tight ends drafted before James in total. Only one played in more NFL games than James. On top of offense, James also had a career-high 17 tackles in 2010 and finished his NFL career with 49 overall tackles and 1 tackle for a loss. In football, few positions have undergone as dramatic as an evolution as tight end. Once thought of as primarily as an extra lineman who occasionally caught a pass, today's tight ends are hybrid players, asked to do it all, block like offensive tackles, catch like wide receivers, and in some cases, even run the ball like a back. James Casey was ahead of his time. During his playing days in the late 2000s and the early 2010s, the league still leaned heavily on traditional tight ends who fit one archetype: big-bodied blockers with reliable hands in short yardage situations. Players like Tony Gonzalez and Antonio Gates were redefining the position as receiving threats. But the NFL hadn't fully embraced the versatile, move-around-the-field tight end that dominates today's game. Ironically, the way tight ends are utilized in today's NFL mirrors how James Casey was employed at Rice, not how his professional teams used him. At Rice, Casey was the ultimate offensive weapon. The coaching staff exploited his diverse skill set to create mismatches and keep defenses guessing, primarily as a jumbo slot receiver. In contrast, during his time with the Texans, Eagles, and Broncos, Casey was often confined to more traditional roles, primarily as an H-back or blocking tight end. NFL teams back then were hesitant to fully embrace such a multifaceted player, sticking instead to conventional positional assignments. Today's NFL offenses, however, prize versatility and unpredictability. Tight ends are now frequently moved around the formation, much like how Rice used Casey. They shift from the backfield to the slot, line up wide, and are involved in plays that capitalize on their unique blend of size, speed, and agility. Casey's time with the Texans is where he stood out the most. He was the lead blocker for Arian Foster in 2012 and also played tight end and lined up in the slot. He was also the Texans' backup deep snapper and played on 54% of the Texans' offensive snaps that season. He was much more instrumental to their success than he gets credit for. His NFL career ended quietly, cut from the Broncos just before their Super Bowl 50 victory. But Casey didn't let that chapter define him. He used every lesson from his playing days, every adjustment, every setback to shape the next phase of his career.
And 10 for 101 and 2 touchdowns, James Casey in the tight end room.
To be able for them to score a couple touchdowns like that, to get as much attention and recognition is just, that's what you do for it.
They trust everything he says is going to help them be a better player. I think he's helped every single tight end that's come through there reach their potential. It's hard to imagine that there's one better than him.
Today, Casey's influence is profound as the tight ends coach for the Cincinnati Bengals. Casey is one of the best young coaches in the NFL and is widely loved and adored by coaches, people in GM rooms, and in huddles across the NFL. Most of all, James is loved by his position room and the Bengals franchise. James Casey may not be a household name, but his impact is etched into every team he's ever touched. From his days as a college phenom to his work shaping tight ends, it's a reminder that sometimes life's victories come in unexpected ways. Casey's work ethic, honed through years of struggle and triumph, finally brought him to the pinnacle of football. Casey once wrote to a scholarship fund sponsor, "You will never find anyone that will work harder than me, on or off the field. And you will never be embarrassed by anything I do." It's this mindset that defines James Casey. Not the setbacks, not the missed Super Bowl as a player, but the relentless drive to improve and the refusal to settle. In 2023, James was honored with the induction to the Rice Athletics Hall of Fame.
Thinking about it and wow, there's only 200 and some people that are in the Rice Hall of Fame. It's not like just everybody gets into it. The thing I thought about was just Rice and just everything that Rice did for me. My life just took a 180 coming here.
James Casey's story may not fit neatly into the fairy tale mold, but it's one parents hope to tell their children. A story of perseverance, of showing up even when the odds seem insurmountable, and of finding success, not through shortcuts, but through hard work and integrity. It's about a teenager sitting in biology class, learning his home is burned down and his mother is gone, who chooses not to let tragedy define him. It's about a minor league pitcher who loses his fastball and doesn't sulk, but reinvents himself entirely. It's about a 23-year-old college freshman with a family to support, stepping onto the football field with no guarantees, but a promise to outwork everyone. Casey's story is a testament to the unglamorous truth of success, that is often built in the quiet, thankless moments when no one is watching. It's in the countless hours of practice, the willingness to embrace roles no one else wants, and the determination to excel, not for glory, but for the simple pride of doing the job well. And perhaps most importantly, it's a story of humility, the kind that earns you respect in locker rooms, in boardrooms, and in life. Casey didn't need a Super Bowl ring to validate his career. His legacy is written in the way he approached every challenge, big or small, with the same relentless work ethic and refusal to settle for mediocrity. It's a story not about shortcuts or fame, but about the quiet courage to keep moving forward. If there's a lesson in James Casey's journey, it's this. Success isn't a moment, it's a mindset. It's built one step, one rep, and one sacrifice at a time. And it's always worth it.